Hello and welcome back. Last episode, we're here playing as Great Qing in Victoria 3. We are back. This is the first one we've recorded since the computer went out. Last episode, which we recorded, it was close to a month ago, but it's forever burned in our minds. We lost the Sikh Empire to Great Britain in kind of a dumb war thing where they capitulated, where there was absolutely no reason to capitulate, and they got subjugated by Great Britain, even though there was zero land occupied, and so this was quite a bit annoying. What we're kind of doing now is we're trying to expand the market. We noticed this this used to be ours, but now it's not. And so this is kind of what we're doing. We're also trying to crank up the GDP. I think that the objective here is going to be getting the GDP to 1 billion, and then we're kind of going to be done with this run. Although I thought we were going to be done with this run, this was the plan because, I was upset, but I think this is a good segue to get back into it because we are starting to play again and get our sea legs, well, not our sea legs, not ideally. We're getting back on dry land. We're playing Victoria 3, not dry land outside because it's raining, because Hurricane Hillary, but we will continue on and be playing and trying to expand the customs union. This is mostly what we're doing, if I recall correctly, with a lot of our improved relations. We're not bankrolling people yet. I don't think we can bankroll people yet because we don't have central banking, but once we get it, then we will be able to kind of push in that way, and this will help out. As far as tech goes, I do think Quinine is going to be a little bit better overall because it'll allow us to get a really big chunk, a really nice chunk of all of this land, which is going to be super good. I'm uncertain if there's available arable land, but speaking of available arable land, we also have annexed all of this, so we are expecting, over the course of a little bit of time to start seeing these places become primarily Han as our unemployed pops migrate out. This strategy is really strong with China. We just annexed Brazil, so we don't see too many Han pops there. Generally, well, I guess we do in some spots, but we've had, this Colombia region kind of annexed for a little while, and so we are seeing a little bit more Han pops here, and they are migrating. Specifically, there's a really high migration attraction because of the unused arable land, which is why you want to grab this. But we're going to continue. We have a queue that's like pretty full. It looks like we're going towards a lot of construction. We're expanding government administrations, universities, stuff like this, but we'll be well on our way and continuing on as we were. So we're obviously trying to expand the customs union, and this requires a lot of diplo. We're doing it primarily through improved relations, and so we're going to take a look at, how we can try and, without upsetting anyone too much, how we can try and expand, our available diplo, and we see we are already rivaling Austria, two Sicilies, and Great Britain. Great Britain has been thumbing our pie, so this seems fine, but I think we're also going to peel off Belgium here, because I don't think we're going to try and be getting them in the customs union, and so we're going to do this, and so now we have a little bit more wiggle room to work with. We should be able to customs union more people, but more importantly, we can improve relations with more of these boyos in here that we want to in particular go after for like pulling them into the customs union. I think we kind of want to go after this region a little bit. Maybe we want to go after some other region. Like we can improve relations with Sweden and try and get them into our customs union. They are one of the bigger people not in the customs union, so maybe we go after Sweden. Looks like Oregon got released. That's a thing. And so maybe we improve relations with Sweden, and we have a little bit of leftover diplo with which we can use to make sure that we have available to pull people into the customs union, but this only takes like 10 or 20. This is kind of the name of the game. We are going after Sind here. Fairly likely Sind backs down. We do have war reps in on them. I have to imagine that they don't want this heat. We're actually going to ban slavery as well and make the war reps primary and also open their market, expecting to see it back down, but we'll see how it goes, and then we'll look for another war if we get it on them. So we see our shipyards here in Xiaozhou are not very profitable, and in particular we actually do want to build the shipyards up relatively high in this spot, and also it doesn't take much convoys to export ships, and so we're going to see if we can raise the price of ships in the market just overall, which will make this place a little bit more profitable. I think that probably I'm under exporting in a lot of these runs some of the ships because they export very cheaply. They don't take a lot of convoys to export. Look, we can do really high levels, and also there's a ton of room for more production here, so we will get the production in and we will kind of increase and get like a lot of this productivity, but it's mainly that it's like very, very cheap on the convoys, which is something we're kind of concerned about overall. And this will allow us to do more volume of trade to try and expand the market, but also we're going to be able to employ up and specifically try and push economies of scale here in Chaozhou, where we have a bonus for, you know, the shipyard's throughput, which is pretty nice. And so we are looking to push economies of scale here up a little bit, because we're pushing economies of scale everywhere. We're kind of specializing with things like, for example, here we're specializing in glass. That's on auto expand, but this is part of what we can do to you know, try and push this up. And you see employment come on up quite a bit as the equilibrium price rises. Nitroglycerin is going to be big nice. We're going to be able to put big boom booms everywhere, which is why we have a bunch of FERTs already in the queue, because past generalists knew that future generalists would want these. And so this is exactly how things are going. So we will you know, turn on the PMs probably everywhere if we can afford it everywhere, but at least in some places, some key places. Also notable here is we have finished all the universities we were constructing up in Jiangxi, and we are up to level 100. It is important to note that this cap is a soft cap, and we have like this uncapped 440 over this. And what the cap does, what the uncapped stuff does, is it increases your tech spread because it's from, you see that plus 70 from unspent innovation. That is the result of us going over the cap. Now we do have censorship and old ways active, big sad, but we are getting an enormous amount of tech spread. And so if we take a look, you know, kind of as our plans come to fruition a little bit, we see that nationalism spreading to us. We are getting 39 to 119. It is a die roll, so it's you know, within a range per tick. And so on average, we will be getting, what is that? That's plus 80, so we'll be getting plus 40, so on average this will be 79, which is kind of like in the middle. With our active research, we are getting 85, so we are almost researching as fast from our tech spread as we are our active research. And this is how we catch up as China specifically, because all you have to pay is money. And you know, that's all you have to pay in order to catch up on tech. You notice here we are getting throughput from economies of scale. It's very important to build all your universities in one place or in multiple places, as long as you are maximizing your throughput bonus. So we could have 2 level 50s and this would be fine, but the reason we have, you know, them all in the capital here is because they employ Intelligentsia boyos. You see the academics, and these guys in the capital get some clout juice plus 50% clout. But what this is doing here is these buildings benefit hugely from economies of scale. See, we have really expensive paper and still the wages are more expensive. And just keep in mind, throughput increases the input goods and the overall output. So it's increasing the innovation, but it's not increasing wages. And since wages, the higher proportion wages are of you know, what's going on, the more useful throughput is. And this is a really high proportion of wages. Like if we just kind of come in here and click on, you know, this tooling workshop, which again we have at 30 because that's our max economies of scale here, we will see that we're paying 32k for the wages here, but we're paying 84 for this other stuff. So throughput is less useful on a tooling workshop than it is on a university. University is just generally where it's absolutely the most efficient, but it's also pretty efficient on government admins, where you see there's a 2-to-1 ratio here. And so you want to also kind of push this with government admins, although you do have local tax considerations in place. But this is a huge part of how, you know, you catch up as China, is you just overbuild the university super, super hard. You just have to pay money, and you have tons of money as China because they are the strongest, you know, in terms of overall military. Now, we do have to find another war. We are allied with Russia, and so this means they can pull us into their wars, but they will get pulled into every single one of our wars. So it's pretty important that we just keep declaring, and so we will find something to do there. So another bit of a psychotic war declared by the UK here. I'm guessing this might just be their behavior because they like are playing as if they had the EIC, but they're going for Afghanistan to subjugate it. Okay, fine, this is a decent place to conquer, except how are you getting in there, bud? They have the Sikh Empire as a dominion, if I recall correctly, so the Sikh Empire can't fight this for them, and so Afghanistan's just going to weight this down. But we will get to see if Afghanistan just capitulates or backs down, which of course would be silly because the UK can't even remotely get into here unless they go through Persia or something like this, which of course we would stop. As far as our war goes, we're going after Tibet, but it's going to be interesting to see if like the AI UK continues to be psychotic, and if the AI defenders continue to be, you know, also psychotic. Match made in heaven. So I didn't click anything, but then just noticed I somehow got swayed in order to help out Great Qing, which to me makes absolutely no sense. I'm not understanding why it was like this at all. So I'm going to take a load, but I don't know if this is a bug. I'm certain, I mean, they must have sent something in order to do this, but speaking of like psychotic in terms of like game things, but we're just going to take a quick load because we somehow got swayed onto their side, and I didn't click a button to get swayed, and so we will see if there's a sway invite here and as we go. So there's no sway invite here, right? There's not an invite, and we're just going to wait this out. We didn't really do anything productive as this was ramping up, but let's see what happens. So why did we get automatically swayed here? Do we have a defensive pact? Did I miss something? Customs union. They owe an obligation from us? Is it they just call in the obligation? But we don't get a pop-up or a chance to not do anything. Okay, so I guess we're gonna see this. Okay, so they're calling it an obligation. I had completely forgotten about the obligation, but this makes sense. This is, of course, fine, but maybe we'll get to see another interior state capitulate after we fight on their side. Normally, like, the AI will never capitulate against you if they're internal like this, but we see Russia's side with Afghanistan as well, and now it is looking absolutely super dicey for the UK here, and they wanted transfer Krakow, which is, of course, amusing. But okay, it's amusing because the UK has Krakow right now. Big nice. But yeah, this, the diplomacy is, leaves a lot to be desired here, but I guess we're going to be involved in a war over Afghanistan, which is, you know, USA vibes here. So we see that our queue is almost empty, and it's actually auto production that's probably keeping our queue going, and so what we're going to do is we're going to go around and we're going to try and find places that have the highest level of, current level, that is below 31 and increase them up to 31. So for example, this furniture manufacturer is a good shout, because it's increasing up to 17 right now. We can put a few more in. Now it's 21, now it's 31. And the reason we do this is, of course, we're looking to just maximize the economies of scale throughput in a whole bunch of places. You want to build on this because it's actually worth more than the 32nd, 33rd, 34th building. When you build the 32nd building, it's going to be worth 130% of a building, right? The 32nd one, because it's going to have that 30% throughput. But when you build the 31st building, you, of course, do get 160% of building effective because it's getting the 130 that you initially got, as well as here we're gonna probably look for tools, as well as you know, the 30% or the 31 single percent on the previous 30 buildings, moving up from that. And so you see here Chongqing is our highest level. The earnings will be high, but what we're going to do is we're going to bump it up, bump it up to level 31, and then we of course will build a couple railways on top. But this is kind of how you want to expand it, generally speaking. You see we have a 31 here already. It's kind of how we're going. For example, here's a 21, which we probably manually increased to 21. Maybe it wasn't quite 21 yet, but we're going to increase it to 31. Again, trying to push this because with each of these, we're getting, you know, 160% of the building when they all complete, or actually not 160%. Is it 160%? I know marginally the 31st one is 160%, but the previous one before that is not 160%, and so in total, it's not going to be 160%. I don't think that's the way the math works, but it is going to be more valuable than just increasing the stuff on top. With the exception of kind of here in Jiangxi, we have to keep in mind that we are encouraging manufacturing, and so each one of these is going to have an additional 20% throughput, but on top of this, we also have state construction efficiency here, and so this is also going to be an extraordinarily good place to build. What we are going to want to build specifically, as long as it's really profitable, is motor industries and steel mills. This will greatly increase the number of urban center size, because each of these gives 4, but we're also going to be increasing these because they give a lot more machinists, and so we eventually do want the trade unionists powerful, and so we're going to just blast these out to level 30 31 now. You see we have a bunch of level 21 stuff. That's because our previous economies of scale cap before Mechanized Workshops was 21, and so we had increased stuff to 21. But this is kind of how we are approaching expansion, and we are preparing for this war, which should be relatively easy. Would not be surprised to see them back down here and just give up Krakow and the like. Unfortunate that Scotland joined against us because we had a defensive pact with Scotland even, and now we're not going to. We were trying to, get something done with them, and now we're not going to be able to do this. We're probably going to try and land the UK in a couple spots maybe, and try and do, once we finish up here. Actually, we definitely don't need this much troops here, so maybe with the 9 stack and this 20 stack and this 44 stack, we do a little bit of a triple landing on Great Britain here. They're already pretty kneecapped, and so we'll just continue on. So we pick up the very nice Quinine tech, and what we're working on now is actually moving into the tier 3 techs on the production side and going for shift work. Now we're going ahead of time because we are going to be really relying on nat spread a whole lot for this run, because we're just going to build up the unis super high. But what shift work does is increase the economies of scale cap, which kind of ties into what we were talking about earlier, in that the economies of scale cap is going to get plus 20. So now what was going to inform our building is we're going to be looking to get everything up to level 51, because the economies of scale cap is going to go up when we finish this tech. So this is going to be how we fill the rest of our queue for now, is we're going to find all of our 31, 32, these types of buildings, and we're going to look to build them all the way up to 51. That way it will be getting max economies of scale bonus when the economies of scale bonus moves to level 50 when we finish this shift work technology, which is going to be done in 3 years. It should be done a little bit faster because chem bleaching, once this finishes, it'll require less tech spread. Also, very importantly, we're still nat spreading a whole ton and still relying on that really heavily, and so this is what we're going to do. We might even build more universities, but once we get the level 50, we will also be getting increased output up to 30 of the throughput on the university is going to be higher, so we're going to research even faster once we finish this tech. I gotta take another look at war sometime here, because we got capitulated out, but it doesn't really make too big a difference. I'm not sure why we got capitulated out. There's no war goals to have been enforced. We were just content to continue to help Afghanistan. Afghanistan's still crushing in this war. If we take a look here, we didn't click capitulate. Maybe I'm just it's just rust and I'm not used to the UI and I'm just forgetting something like this. But they should be well on their way to winning that war, and so it's kind of a nothing burger that we get enforced on. We're just going to look to annex someone else, I think, who is a subject. I think Chile is a full-on subject now. Why don't I think annexing them is a fine play. We will get Russia pulled in on our side, and we will continue to just try and start beef with as much as possible. And so this will be nice. Doesn't look like there's anyone auto-joined on their side. They're going to go for independence, of course. And this will just be more people to move on over. Now, we are increasingly running out of bureaucracy, but this is okay because we had made a partial shift over to, government administrations. And what we have been doing is as soon as we click on up over, we just move a couple of these and then we're fine. And this will also be pretty efficient in terms of increasing taxes. We also went up to 1K construction, and so that's going pretty well. I think Baroda's calling it an obligation for a defensive pact, so sure. We will have a defensive pact with them now, and hopefully UK doesn't declare war on them, but we'll see how that goes. Baroda is pretty big here, not normal Baroda, this is Giga Baroda, but we also have gotten into the Customs Union Bengal, which is probably the biggest of these guys, and so we're still working on Hybridad, and if I'm not mistaken, are we not improving relations with you? No, we're improving relations with you. We can make a trade agreement now. How much will this cost? 37. We'll do this, but we are trying to get Orissa and Hybridad both into the Customs Union. Why can't we improve relations? Less than amicable? Okay, fair enough. And so we are trying to pull everyone in here into the Customs Union. It's growing big. Eventually we'll go multiculturalism, and then we should be able to siphon off pops unless these boyos, since they were released from the EIC, do not allow the migration. But actually, even with migration controls, because they're not discriminated against, we should be able to siphon off pops from them, which will be nice because we can flood these areas with pop. Speaking of, let's just take a little check on how the Han populations are doing. It looks like they're growing, not enormously in some areas, but not every area has enormous migration attraction. We see like these areas down here, mostly Han Chinese now. If we take a look at the cultures map mode, we'll see that I said if we take a look at the cultures map mode, is population? No, that's not the map mode we want. Cultures. We will see that we are getting Han, and this will continue to, the Han pops will continue to take over. We see Han here as well. They are migrating out because they are unemployed, because subsistence farms get built over, and you see we have huge unemployment, but we are handling this unemployment through a mass exodus, and so that is we're in pretty good shape on, you know, that front. We're also kind of about past oligarchy, which is big nice. Orissa is kind of one step closer to getting inside the customs union. You see, if we had we could actually invite them if we owed them an obligation, right? But they would not accept. I guess the obligation's not worth a lot to them, but we can bankroll them and then look to pull them in that way once we get bankrolls available, which is pretty soon here, actually. So we're probably going to be switching over to bankrolling all of these boyos that we're improving relations with and looking to expand the customs union. Boom, China. So we'll swap over all the PMs for that. In retrospect, it might have not been worth annexing Chile now, because what we will get is they will lose their monopoly on the ability to colonize this land, and while we can colonize it, really, actually, it's probably worth it still. It's just we're gonna get a little bit of border gore, because other people are gonna colonize the areas where, the areas where specifically Chile does have kind of this thing, and we should have just annexed Transvaal and Orania, which I didn't even realize weren't annexed yet. That way we get access to this juicy colonial frontage. You know, overall things are going pretty well. We're up a little bit over 1K construction. We're getting up to 51 on a bunch of places because we know we're going to have shift work relatively soon, so that should really absolutely slap, you know what I mean? Maybe we back the rural folk? Yeah, sure, why not? We're still waiting on oligarchy. We've gotten several unlucky ticks. We get an embargo coming in from, you know, these guys. Puppet Macron. Let's see how that ended for them. They didn't get Afghanistan, and then now they're going after Macron. Macron they'll almost certainly get. Hey, we have an uprising. He. So we passed oligarchy, and something we'd like to go for now, well, we could try and get off of monarchy onto parliamentary republic. I don't think we want to poke the bear of the scholar officials a little bit, or just quite yet. These guys are royalists. They're really big mad. But the rural folk here are traditionalists, which we're not, well, actually, they endorse state religion. Actually, they're pretty good for us right now, because they have good, yeah. See, the thing, the law I want to pass here is interventionism, or sorry, laissez-faire, off of interventionism, which of course we can go for, but it's going to radicalize the rural folk, and I don't think we rev, or it's too big a deal, but maybe we can try and get something a little bit better in terms of our situation. So let's actually just take a quick look and see if we can recruit a market liberal general, which I'm kind of doubting we're going to have available. No, we don't, and we're going to check market liberal admiral. Although I think we have too many of scholar officials to really try and force it out like that. And there isn't, we checked agitators, there's no agitator we can invite that looks particularly good. But we would really love if we could utilize the cloud of the scholar officials here. The rural folk are just so powerful because of all the subsistence farms that have partial ownership on the rural folk. And so I really wish there was a good way to make them happy here, or happier, so that we could do some stuff. We can just, like, do this and then sit around and, like, use our higher legitimacy to generate, you know, happy people. Maybe this is okay. Notably, for us, in particular, the Confucian scholars aren't even that bad in interest group, and we would like to have them happier. And so maybe it's just, like, chill mode here as far as the laws pass, but really, really would like interventionism. Also, proportional taxation is probably getting pretty close to paying out more. It does pay out more now. So when you have a ton of sub-farms, land-based taxation is better, but proportional taxation, while we have been passing oligarchy, is kind of past the threshold where it's going to generate us more revenue, there's more construction, and it's going to tax people in kind of a way that we prefer, because it's going to be taxing richer people more. So I think I talked myself into going onto proportional, so we're going to take a look who we need. We need rural folk or armed forces. Perfect, the rural folk love it, and so we will see about doing, the armed forces have 11% clout, so we could do this and be less legitimate. I think we'd rather be more legitimate and pass slower. And the scholar officials, I think, won't like it, if I recall correctly. And so maybe we will have to get them out. Hopefully this doesn't radicalize. Oh, it barely radicalizes. Well, we'll see if we just get lucky and it just says -9 instead of -10. You know, it'd be like that sometimes. And they're minus 11, so of course they will leave the government, which will tank our legitimacy, and so we'll probably have to reform the government to something without them. We are still bolstering the Industrialists, which I think we're going to stop doing because we're floating this minus 200 authorities, so this is going to give us a decent amount of disapproval. So for example, just by doing that, we are now getting 20% throughput on the logging camps. We are now up to also getting minus the society tech costs, stuff like this. And when the scholar officials leave the government, which they're almost certainly going to, they will be a little bit happier with us, which is, you know, big shame that they don't like us or are unhappy with us. It's so sad. But this will be a nice little law pass that hopefully we can get through. We're cruising relatively quick. We're going to make more money, and then this sort of thing. So we just finished annexing Chile here as well. So we are going to... Ooh... Argentina still has the rights there? Perfect. Perfect for us. And so that'll be super nice. We are colonizing here, even though it's not very efficient, because we're just trying to cut people off, which is kind of what we've been trying to do. We do have to wait for this to time out before, you know, finishing a war or starting a new war. And so that's how things are going. So far, I don't think none of our bankrolls have paid out to the extent where we could do anything funny in terms of inviting... Well, actually, we have this to deal with. So we got to deal with that. Once we deal with that, though, we'll be in decent shape. I think we're going to go after Transvaal and Orania next, but then we will try and, well, actually, are there any decent rivals we can remake? We don't want to rival Bengal. We could rival Prussia, I suppose, which will give us a decent chunk of, you know, authority to work with here. And Prussia doesn't have very many interests around the world, and now we can check and see if we can maybe protectorate anyone we've been bankrolling, or customs union anyone we've been bankrolling. The answer is no. Big sad. We do have an obligation with Kebab, and so we will take a look. I think we will just absolve it here. Now that they're up to amicable, we'll just keep this amicable, and so we'll keep this going and finish up this war and go after Transvaal and Orania. So we just pipped shift work, the tech that doesn't look as good as it really is. So the shift work tech is going to be really nice. I think that this little bump in our GDP here, or this rather large bump, was a result of getting the 20% throughput on the logging, because we do have an enormous amount of logging camps built, and so we're going to stay focused on the law there. And so this will be really nice, but so will moving these up to level 51. And now we see that the throughput comes up. I'm not expecting to see an absolutely enormous crank up because we don't have a lot of these at 51 yet, but stuff like the unis, of which we're adding 10 to, now they're at 50% throughput, so we probably are now natural spreading more tech, or we're natural spreading tech faster than we are researching it actively. So we see 65 to 167, that's like, what, a spread of roughly 120, so we're getting roughly 120 from our natural spread instead of like 75. And look, where is our, oh, we don't have an active spread yet. Well, let's select a tech that we want. So we could go into pump jacks because we do have quite a bit of, you know, agriculture, but we don't really want to stimulate the agriculture too much, specifically as China, because there's going to be a lot of rice farms that get built over. This is going to fire a lot of pops. We're going to have a huge amount of unemployment. We already have a really big amount of unemployment, and so I think we're going to go for some society tech instead. Maybe we could go for civilizing mission into malaria prevention, something like this. Actually, we've been waiting so long. We're going to go percussion cap, and the reason we're going percussion cap, look at this, 90. So we're researching at active research at 75% of the speed of our nat spread, and we haven't even finished this extra 10 units. But we're going to go percussion cap because don't really hate necessarily going a little bit of military tech, and we have been holding off going into skirmish infantry for quite some time now as a result of what is it? We don't have any ammo production ourselves, and while we could import it, we do have 200 battalions, and so that would be a little bit of a tough ask, and we do want to have a kind of protected supply of the goods in case stuff happens. Wow. We're gonna need some more, or actually the boom booms are going up because well, we overbuilt this a little bit, but we will be expanding greatly all of these mines as well to level 51, which we haven't done as much of, which we probably should have. So for example, the Shaanxi, this we want at 51. Shaozhou, we're just gonna max it out. Economies of scale cap, but like Southern Manchuria, 51, all this sorts of stuff. Coal in particular is expensive, so we probably should have increased that first, but the idea is very much the same. We're looking to maximize the throughput on all of these now that we've unlocked the new tech, and after we get percussion cap, which is just going to be like a little bit of a speed bump, a little 21-monther, we want to mainly be going ahead of time with our tech, so I think we're going to maybe push for electricity here, given the fact that, well, actually, I kind of like reinforced concrete into electricity, maybe. The rotary valve engine is not very useful for us. Reinforced concrete will be. Actually, you know what? We're gonna do something a little bit different. We're gonna just go straight for steel frame buildings after this percussion cap tech, which will be super big, nice. And then I think we're gonna go for mutual funds. Maybe not mutual funds. We'll see how we feel. And so this is kind of the plan for now. So our efforts to enact proportional taxation, we have had 2 setbacks, and now we're at 0%, so we are not going to be able to get this through this time. We're going to be bricked for 730 days, which is fine. And now we are left with like the tough decision of, well, we want to pass some stuff. We would love to pass laissez-faire. I think that we need to get the industrialists in, and it will make the rural folk really sad, which will kind of bump the economy down a little bit. We would love to go for guaranteed libs, but we have to get off of censorship first. Rights of assembly will radicalize these guys. Maybe it's just a little bit of a chill time. I think we want to stick on oligarchy, at least for a little bit, you know, as we try and get onto parliamentary. Maybe we need to exile the Confucian scholars' current leader. Let's see who's currently in charge of them. It's a Luddite who's not going to like laissez-faire or interventionism, and they're not going to like free trade, and so we would maybe be getting bonuses. So we're going to take them out of Gov real quick, and then we're going to exile them. I don't think we would be getting too many bonuses. I think we'd just be getting the first bonus. This will radicalize some of these guys, and we get the radical Luddite, but now we get a reformer Boyo, which is going to be nice because he approves of some other stuff. And so the approval rating, if we put these guys in Gov, which now they can't be as legitimate in Gov, but if we put them in Gov, the approval rating should bump up a little bit, and this would give us access to, what is this, 10% authority, which is not good, not terrible. Is there a way for us to have the industrialists in, though? Because I think we're going to go for laissez-faire anyways. Alright, this is probably the best we can do as we try and go for laissez-faire, which will make the rural folk pretty mad, but it won't radicalize them. We do want to get on this law. It's a little bit tough with the law pass. It's a little hard out here for a pimp, but you know how it is. We are going to damage relations. Why can't we annex them? Oh, we're still involved against Gaza. And, of course, our front's bricked after we annex. All these guys got sent home. They were all on Transvaal, and they just all get sent home, which makes a ton of sense. Glad Paradox is kind of going to be fixing this stuff soon here. But we're just, oh, they're not all the way home, they're just, they're still there. Okay, that's fine, never mind. I take it all back. I apologize, Paradox. My bad. My bad, dog. But this is now going to be a part of our land. We are going to incorporate pretty aggressively because we do have an enormous amount of stuff. We're going to reset some PMs, and we are going to delete, before we have a Rev brewing, which we might get, we're going to delete these barracks. All of them, because we don't want them, and we will make sure to start colonizing this land now that we have all these adjacencies built up, which is going to be super nice. Why can't we colonize Batose? Is that up here that we're getting in there? Alright, fair enough. But we're going to get a bunch of really good colonization off this, as well as the sucker that Transvaal usually provides. And I think we're going to take a look at, and there's our Rev brewing. It's going to go up to 79, which is not too high. We're going to take a look who will join our customs union, and we see Egypt is willing to join for nothing, and Orissa is willing to join for nothing. So we're going to pull them in, and then who is willing to become a protectorate? Anyone? Bueller? No. But Egypt and Orissa coming on in is going to be super nice. Can we protectorate them? No, they have powerful protectors. Damn. Let's see about Orissa. Could we protectorate them? In theory, we could if we had an obligation, which we don't, but they're also only amicable and not friendly. And so we also subjugate Gaza down there, which is pretty nice. We're going to go after Orania now, which should be fairly comfortable for us. We're going to mobilize and put guys on fronts. And so I think, but we're going to talk about what we did this episode. We did get a little bit of a crank up. We increased the GDP by maybe 40%, 50%. I think it was in the low 300s at the start of the episode. We even had a little bit of a dip. I believe that dip is the minus throughput on the logging, which is just goes to show like how good logging is. We really expanded a whole bunch of logging like really early on. It's incredibly powerful in the early game because the sawmills PM is just very, very, very efficient. But we also got some pretty good techs. We went up maybe 300-ish construction. We're kind of poised to do more construction, and we're kind of also turned a little bit of a corner because we got access to bankrolling, and so we're going to be able to pull a lot of people into the customs union a little bit better. We do have this shameful display of the Sikh Empire being part of the British market here, and so maybe we'll have to rectify that at some point, remove the shame, but we all also, you know, the customs union is pretty big. It's coming along. I don't know it looks like Great Britain's decided Anchorages is the best PM, but I think we're going to conclude this episode here. If you enjoyed, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, share, click the notification bell. All of this helps out a lot. And other than that, you know, have a good day that is a little bit drier than my day right now, because currently, Hillary's a little bit overhead. And by Hillary, I mean Hurricane Hillary, not the presidential candidate in the 2016 elections. Have a good one. Ta-ta.